Kamaging Bakery Cafe. We are very privileged today to have with us one of the most popular diplomats, I think, in the Philippines. Ambassador, it's San Kim or Sun Kim? San Kim. Because Ambassador San Kim here to talk about bilateral relations and any other topic he wants to talk about. Let us welcome His Excellency Ambassador San Kim.
Thank you, Wilson. I'm delighted to be here. Can you hear me okay? This is my first time at the Pandesal Forum. When I heard that it was at a cafe, I thought it was going to be a quiet, small, casual occasion. I didn't realize that there would be a dozen cameras before me. But I'm delighted to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about how things are going in U.S.-Philippine relations, and also importantly what lies ahead of the relationship. As you know, our relationship with the Philippines is one of our most enduring relationships in the whole Indo-Pacific region. The Filipino people are some of our closest friends, partners, and allies. And during my almost 3 years here, I have witnessed the strength of our military alliance, the importance of our economic partnership, and the depth of our people-to-people ties. Our wide-ranging cooperation includes security, trade and investment, educational exchange, environmental resilience, public health, and sustainable development. There's so much that we are doing together. I would like to give you some specific examples of how we're working together to strengthen the connections between our people, create prosperity that will improve livelihoods, and make our nations more secure. First, let me start with our friendship. Our bonds are enriched by more than 4 million Filipinos and Filipino Americans in the United States, and by some 300,000 Americans in the Philippines, all of whom help to shape the political and economic future of our two countries. One of my favorite parts of being ambassador is connecting amazing people in both of our countries to start new cooperation and partnership. One way we do this is through exchange programs. Each year, we send approximately 350 Filipinos to the United States on government-funded exchange programs. These opportunities strengthen the connective tissue between our countries and provide opportunities for important knowledge transfers. The Filipino American Educational Foundation, or our Fulbright Commission, has sent more than 3,200 Filipino scholars to the United States and brought more than 1,000 U.S. scholars to the Philippines. One of our exciting flagship exchange programs is the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative, or YSEALI. The 6-year-old initiative harnesses the power of young leaders to address critical challenges facing the ASEAN region. There are more than 25,000 Filipino YSEALI members who seek to make change in their communities and build a bright future for the nation. YSEALI training and exchanges help these incredible young Filipinos to realize their full potential. Finally, we have seen an increase over the past 2 years in the number of Filipinos studying in the United States. Our college fairs in Manila and Cebu continue to grow throughout greater and greater numbers. We're working hard to create an even more opportunities for Filipino students and mid-career professionals to pursue studying in the United States. We also hope that more and more Americans will come to the Philippines for education. Second, we are very strong partners. The Philippines and the United States share substantial economic ties. Total trade between our countries equals more than $27 billion annually. The United States is one of the Philippines' largest foreign investors and its third largest trading partner. On its own, the Philippines' economic growth story is an impressive one. You have emerged as one of the fastest growing economies in the Indo-Pacific region, averaging a 6.6% GDP growth from 2013 to 2018. It's very impressive. Poverty rates are in decline, and a youthful Filipino workforce is hopeful for the future. We admire the Philippines' success, and we want it to continue. A key component of our economic strategy in the Philippines includes facilitating greater trade and investment to support economic growth that create jobs, boost incomes, and develop the skills of Filipino workers. I think it is important to note that U.S. companies are the country's largest employer and the largest exporter, and the U.S. was the top export market for the Philippine goods from January to July of 2018. Looking ahead, we hope to expand our trade and investment relationships and are linking together our entrepreneurship communities to support development of the Philippines startup ecosystem. In addition to economic cooperation, we are one of Philippines' top development assistance partners. Together, we implement a wide range of development programs to support inclusive growth and development, sustainable use of natural resources, including sustainable fisheries, and good governance. In addition to our extensive assistance to the people of Mindanao in the wake of the Marawi crisis, we partner with the Philippines government to improve public health. Disaster management and response are also top priorities. U.S. has been a large and consistent partner for disaster assistance. Just in the past decade, we have delivered disaster relief and recovery valued at 13 billion Philippine pesos. Lastly, we are allies. Our security cooperation dates back to World War II, when our forces fought together to liberate the Philippines and protect a free and open Indo-Pacific. Today, our militaries are working to modernize the armed forces of the Philippines, enhance maritime security, and counter terrorist threats. In 2018, we conducted more than 250 joint military activities, welcomed a series of high-level visits by senior military leaders, and visits by former U.S. military ships. We recognized 91 World War II veterans with Congressional Gold Medals and funded the transfer of more than $35 million in military equipment to the armed forces of the Philippines. During his recent trip to the Philippines, Secretary of State Pompeo's reaffirmation of the 1951 U.S.-Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty and clarification of the MDT's applicability to the South China Sea underscored the importance we attach to our relationship with the Philippines. The Philippines is our oldest treaty ally in Asia, and we stand firm in our commitment. Of course, we covered the return of the Dalagiga Bells in December last year. The return was a milestone in the relationship and demonstrated the enduring strength of the U.S.-Philippines alliance and deep bonds of friendship between us. Finally, I'm proud of the military assistance U.S. forces provided to the AFP in Marawi. Our assistance directly contributed to the AFP's success in ending the siege and reminded all of us of the critical importance of joint training and interoperability. I had a chance to visit Marawi last year and was deeply moved by what I saw. The resilience of the citizens of Marawi was really very impressive, and I think we've doubled our commitment to do as much as we can to help them. So this is a very important and special relationship, and I'm truly honored to be the U.S. ambassador to the Philippines. Our bilateral relationship not only benefits both of our countries, but also serves as a cornerstone of regional stability. And this is a very dynamic and important region. Thank you very much for listening to my remarks, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Kim, for that very comprehensive overview of bilateral relations. Congratulations also for what you've done in the past 3 years in the Philippines. Before they ask questions, I'd like to ask, somebody asked me, what are your favorite places in the Philippines that you've been visiting as a tourist also? In the Philippines, what are the most? Is that Marawi?
Yeah, I had a chance to visit quite a few places throughout the country. They all have special meaning. But I guess if I had to pick one place, Baguio is very special to me. Obviously, there is very deep history to the U.S.-Philippines relationship in Baguio. And it's just certainly beautiful. So I go there and
maybe before they ask question, what are your impressions of our midterm elections? I think you taught us the election system.
Well, I want to congratulate the people of the Philippines for another very exciting and vibrant election. When the voter turnout in the Philippines is usually much higher than in the United States, and I think it's an indication of the vibrancy of the democracy there. And I offer my congratulations to all the winners of the election.
Thank you, Sir Kim. Anyone who wants to ask questions? Feel free to ask. Hello, sir. There are some questions here. The microphone is over there. Chance pass first. The earliest to be here.
Good morning, Ambassador Tim. Earlier you mentioned the remarks by Secretary Pompeo on the mutual defense. Can you just give us an update? Have there been any talks between the two sides to move forward the Philippines' request to clarify the applicability of the treaty in the South China Sea? Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I think it was a very important clarification. The Secretary stated very clearly that the South China Sea is part of the Pacific. Therefore, our obligations under the Mutual Defense Treaty clearly applies to situations in the South China Sea. I think we all knew that, but to the extent that there were questions about our commitment, the depth of our commitment, I think it was important for someone senior like Secretary of State to make that statement here in the Philippines. And of course, he conveyed that directly to President Duterte and Secretary Lawson in his meetings with them. This is a very close alliance relationship. So there is constant communications between the two sides. As I mentioned, just last year, we had over 250 joint military activities. So there are many, many occasions, opportunities for us to discuss various aspects of the alliance. And I look forward to continuing that dialogue with the Defense Secretary and leaders of the Armed Forces of the Philippines going forward. And I know that our colleagues in the Pentagon are also looking forward to having more opportunities to discuss various aspects of the treaty.
Good morning, Ambassador. One of the things that Secretary of State Mike Pompeo brought up during his visit here was concerns about Huawei technology. And the Philippines right now is about to undertake a Safe Philippines project with CITCC and possibly Huawei. And some senators have raised alarm over possible security issues in this project. So given the US's concerns about Huawei, what impact do you think partnering with Huawei for this project would have on Philippine security?
Yeah, I think Secretary Pompeo and other senior officials in Washington and beyond have made very clear our concerns about security when it comes to using Chinese technology. And frankly, it's not just concerns of the United States. I think many countries share those concerns. But in the end, it's up to the individual country to make decisions on which companies they partner with, which technologies they choose to use. But we believe it's important as a friend, as a partner, and as an ally to share our concerns with the Philippines and other partners in the region and beyond. These are very serious concerns. And I know that relevant senior officials in the Philippines are deliberating very closely on what would be the right decision for the Philippines.
Somebody texted me, how many times have you met personally with President Duterte? What are your impressions of him as a person and as a leader?
I've had a chance to meet with the President probably over a dozen times. And they have all been productive meetings. He's a very charismatic person, so I'm not at all surprised by the high popularity that he has been able to maintain. I mean, it's pretty impressive that already halfway into his presidency, he's still maintaining such high approval rating. I think that says a lot about the appeal he holds with the broader public. I've enjoyed all of my encounters with the president. I mean, we don't necessarily agree on every single issue, but we have, I think, a very good open dialogue. So I always look forward to my meetings with the president. And I should also mention that our senior visitors from Washington, most recently Secretary Pompeo, they also have good, frank, constructive dialogue with the president.
I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Police General, Brigadier General Joselito Esquivel. He's the head of Quezon City Police District. He looks like a college student. Where is he? Over there. Thank you very much for coming over, our friend. Whenever we have VIPs like Ambassador, they are here to make sure everything is efficient in the neighborhood.
Great to see you. Thank you, General.
Thank you, General Esquivel. Thank you. I hope you enjoy our Pandesal and coffee. I was telling the Ambassador our coffee is from a small town in the mountain. Somebody texted me about, is it possible the state visit of the president? Is it in the, are you talking about it, or is it still, the invitation is still there?
Oh yes, I bet, as you know, President Trump has issued an invitation for President Duterte to visit the United States, and I believe it's still under consideration by Malacanang.
Hi, Ambassador. What is your take on how do you see the second half of Duterte's administration, and what's your outlook? And could you comment on the opposition's failure to consolidate its power against President Duterte?
I mean, I think looking ahead to the second half of the president's term, I mean, from my perspective as the U.S. ambassador, I'm obviously looking forward to doing everything possible to strengthen and deepen our cooperation on all of the important aspects that I mentioned in my remarks. You know, the military alliance remains critically important to both countries and important to maintaining stability in the Indo-Pacific region. So we're going to continue to do a robust set of activities with the AFP, and hopefully we'll be able to make them even more robust in the second half of the president's term. Same thing for the economic partnership. The U.S. companies play a huge role here, and I know that there's strong interest in them doing more in the Philippines. And so we hope that our trade relationship, our investment relationship will continue to grow in the second half of the president's term. Build, Build, Build is a very, very important initiative here, and we hope that we will be able to support the big infrastructure projects that are being planned for the Philippines. You know, I don't think it's really for me to comment on how the opposition did in the last election. I mean, it's obviously for the Filipino people to decide who gets to represent them in Congress. I would just note that, you know, Philippines has a very vibrant democracy, and I think, you know, the opposition's voice is important in a vibrant democracy. So regardless of the election results, I expect that there will continue to be, you know, dialogue between the ruling and opposition camps on how best to move forward to, you know, elevate this country's standing.
But do you have any take on the results of the election, where most of the allies of the president won during the election?
You know, I think there are many more politically astute observers out there who can comment on what happened. I mean, I would just say, obviously, it was a reflection of the president's popularity that the candidates that he supported did so well in the election.
Hello, Ambassador. I want to ask a question about the Korea Peninsula issue. We know you are a very senior diplomat on that issue. We heard there have been some setbacks between North Korea and the U.S. negotiations in recent months after the Hanoi summit. And as a very senior diplomat on that issue, what specific measures do you propose to solve the North Korea nuclear issue? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. It's an important question, but I'm almost exclusively focused on working on U.S.-Philippines relationship. And I did help out with regards to the first summit that took place in Singapore last year, but I'm not really involved with directly anymore, so I'm cautious about answering questions. I should defer to our colleagues in Washington who are directly involved working this very important issue on a day-to-day basis. I would just note that Washington remains committed to finding a diplomatic path forward. They would like to achieve complete denuclearization of North Korea. So that hasn't changed. And I know that my colleagues and my bosses in Washington are working very hard towards that goal.
Good morning, Ambassador. My name is Alvin Manzon from the Japanese news agency Kyodo News. Do you have any new information on the prospect of an ASEAN-US maritime exercise, such as the date and the venue where it might be conducted? Thank you, sir.
I don't have anything new to announce, other than to note that, obviously, maritime security is an important issue for U.S., Japan, and all of the ASEAN countries. So, I think we will continue to explore possibilities for cooperation.
But sir, can you confirm if it is on the planning stage, or is it still being discussed if it will push through, sir?
As I said, I don't have anything concrete to announce with regards to specific U.S.-ASEAN maritime cooperation. But we are, I think everyone agrees that, having good cooperation on maritime security is important. And so we will continue to talk to our partners in ASEAN and explore various ways to strengthen our cooperation.
Thank you, sir.
Ambassador, somebody asked me, what are your hobbies in the Philippines? What do you do? How do you relax? Do you look like an athlete?
I work mostly.
You don't have any special hobby?
No, the Philippines is a very busy place. It's a very social place.
Yeah.
As you know, there are lots of functions, dinners and parties and events. So I go out quite a bit. I try to exercise regularly.
How do you find life in Manila?
Oh, I love it. I can't. It's hard to believe that it's been well over 2.5 years already. It's gone by really fast, and I think it's because I'm enjoying it so much.
I know you're a diplomat, you cannot talk about U.S. politics, but your election is coming soon, I think very, very soon. I was telling your diplomats here that what are your comments about the U.S. politics and the election coming up? Can you, as a citizen?
I think we're very cautious about talking about U.S. domestic politics when we're out of the country. All I can say is that I hope the voter turnout in our election is going to be as high as the voter election that was here.
The economy of the Philippines, you said earlier you're very impressed with the economy. How do you look at that next 3 years of our economy and U.S. participation in infrastructure, and are there any significant developments in Philippine-U.S. economic ties?
So I remain optimistic about the future prospects for the Philippines economy. And in fact, I think more important than my assessment is the assessment of economists. Many thoughtful, smart economists are predicting a very bright future ahead for the Philippines, and I share that optimism. 6+% growth for the past 5 years or so is impressive. I think projections going forward are equally positive. That's great. Bill is going to be a critical piece of, I think, the future of the Philippines growth. Everyone agrees that there are some big infrastructure deficiencies here. So if the government's focus on infrastructure development in the next 3 years and beyond, turning to concrete developments, I think you'll see that the economic opportunities for the Philippines will be even brighter. I should also note that if you look at the demographics here, the Philippines has 50 million people under the age of 24. Smart, talented, hardworking people, English fluency. This is just tremendous potential. And I think that human capital will help the Philippines continue to move forward economically.
Ambassador, US is very important in our anti-terrorism. Do you have any updates about like Marawi and anti-terrorism activities of US and the Philippines, or even the NPA insurgency? Are there any updates on your side?
Yeah, the counterterrorism cooperation is a very important piece of our bilateral relationship. We work together closely in the Marawi situation, and I believe our cooperation and support made a big difference in the AFP's ability to end the terror siege in Marawi. I should also commend the AFP for doing such a wonderful job in ending the siege. It was a very, very difficult, challenging situation, and I think the AFP did amazing work to end the siege. But we know that the terrorist threat hasn't gone away with the end of the Marawi siege, so we're continuing our close cooperation with the AFP and law enforcement agencies to make sure that we're doing everything possible to counter the threat from various stages, organizations, and we're going to continue our cooperation. I think it's obviously necessary, and very much appreciated by both sides. I know that our military and our law enforcement agencies value the partnership with the Philippines counterparts and their Philippine counterparts to appreciate our cooperation.
There's a question.
Hi, Ambassador. Good morning. The Philippines has already made progress in its FTA, in its proposed free trade agreement with South Korea. I believe the Philippines and the United States have long been planning to negotiate an FTA. What is the status of the proposed FTA between the Philippines and the United States?
I think the idea is still under consideration by both governments. We have welcomed the Philippines' interest in doing a bilateral free trade agreement with us. I personally think it would be a very positive development for the relationship. But the matter is still under consideration. And I can't tell you right now when a decision will be made. But we do welcome the Philippines' interest in the bilateral FTA.
Can we ask Ambassador what are the impediments toward the progress of course this is not yet an official negotiation. What are the impediments toward formalizing a negotiation between the two countries?
I wouldn't necessarily say the impediments. These are big issues, and sometimes it takes for our government to make a decision. And as you know, there are some big trade issues that occupy Washington right now. So that's why I say I can't really tell you exactly when we will be able to make a decision. But the matter is under consideration.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Morning, Ambassador. I'm Andrew Calonzo from Bloomberg. So, how are you working with our Philippine officials in hoping to lessen the impact of the U.S.-China trade war now? So, are there any moves, any meetings you've had with trade and for finance?
I think it's not so much a question of lessening the impact from what's going on between the U.S. and China on the trade front. It's more generally speaking, we want to expand our economic partnership in both trade and investment. So we're doing a number of things. The private sector is very engaged here. We have a very active American Chamber of Commerce, and that's encouraging U.S. businesses to expand their operations here in the Philippines. I think the Philippines has sent a number of senior delegations to Washington and beyond in the United States to encourage more U.S. interest and investment in the Philippines. And I think those efforts will continue, and that will continue regardless of what happens in the U.S.-China ongoing trade discussions.
Sir, speaking of US and China, let me just shift to another topic, the South China Sea. It remains to be a potential flashpoint. So what's your assessment of the level of risk of any armed conflict there? And what worries you most? And can we expect increased US presence in the disputed sea in the coming years?
South China Sea is a very important area for all of us. So much of the global trade goes through there. And that's why, even though we are not a claimant, we take a very serious interest in what's happening in South China Sea, developments in South China Sea. And that's why we work very hard to protect freedom of navigation, freedom of overflight. I mean, these are principles and values that are important for all of us, not just for the Indo-Pacific region, but for the international community. That's why we carry out freedom of navigation operations, and we watch very closely the developments in the disputed area. Our position really hasn't changed. I mean, we expect, hope, and urge the claimants to resolve the issue peacefully in accordance with international law and principles. We call on all claimants to refrain from aggressive unilateral actions in the disputed area, and we will continue to monitor what happens there very closely.
Ambassador, I have one more question. Last week, the U.S. Coast Guard ship visited Manila and conducted a joint exercise with the Philippine Coast Guard ship in South China Sea. So, in the future, will there be more kind of cooperation like this between U.S. and the Philippines? And will there be more, the U.S. Coast Guard ship will do more patrolling in the South China Sea? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a terrific visit by the U.S. Coast Guard last week, and they conducted very productive exercises with the Philippines Coast Guard, had a nice port visit, and I do expect that that cooperation will continue. In talking to both our Coast Guard and the Philippines Coast Guard, there's tremendous satisfaction at the quality, the caliber of cooperation last week, and there's strong interest in doing more in the future. So I do expect there to be more Coast Guard activities.
Hi, Ambassador. Just to clarify on your response earlier about Huawei, are you saying that you are cautioning the Philippines from pursuing Safe Philippines project with Huawei? Is that correct?
I don't, you heard what the Secretary said when he was here, and I think you've heard other senior officials talk about this issue. I mean, we have very serious concerns, and we think it's appropriate for us to share our serious concerns with our partners and friends in the Pacific region and abroad and beyond. But ultimately, it's up to the individual country to assess that risk and make decisions based on the full range of factors in play. But all we want to do is make sure that countries in the region understand the serious risks at stake in dealing with such companies and technology.
If the Philippines pursues projects with Huawei, Philippine government, how will this impact USAID projects that might involve interaction with such technology in coordination with the Philippine government? Would you stop projects like that? For example, defense projects that would deal with Huawei technology since it's being used in the Philippines?
As you know, we diplomats are very cautious about answering hypothetical questions because there's really no end when you start considering hypothetical situations. I mean, I think We've shared our views and concerns very clearly with the Philippines, and we'll continue to monitor the situation.
Just to follow up, Ambassador. So, how exactly are you working with Philippine officials on this issue, particularly the Information and Communication Technology Department? And also, how are you also working with our local telecommunication firms like Globe and Smart? So, are you sharing the information you have to them about Huawei so that they could also be made aware of the security concerns that they have?
Yeah, my sense is that we have shared our information and concerns very widely. It's not exactly secret. So I think both policymakers in the government and private sector leaders in the telecommunications industry are quite aware of the concerns that we have. And I should also note, this is not just concerns of the United States. I think many countries and many experts have reached the same conclusion.
Hi, Ambassador. Earlier we've spoken about the elections in the Philippines, which were widely viewed to be an endorsement of the president's campaign against drugs, given the winners, his candidates. Does the U.S. have lingering concerns about allegations of human rights violations in relation to the campaign against drugs in the Philippines, and how do you convey such concerns with the Philippine government?
Yeah, on the elections, I don't really have much more to say than I think it's great that there's such a huge voter turnout. We look forward to working with the elected leaders of Congress, and I do think it was a reflection of the president's popularity, but it was also a reflection of the fact that the economy is doing well, right? I think we have seen in many elections where the health of the economy is an important consideration for voters in many countries. So that's a factor as well. On human rights, I think we have stated our concerns very clearly. As you know, we publish an annual human rights report, which goes into some detail about our concerns with respect. I have had very frank discussions with Philippine government officials, including President Duterte. We have urged the Philippines authorities to make sure that there is accountability when there are reports of human rights violations. And I think broadly speaking, there is agreement. I think we all agree that law enforcement efforts should be carried out in a way that's consistent with rule of law. There should be transparency. There should be accountability. And we'll continue that dialogue with Philippines authorities. My sense is that reports of human rights violations have gone down noticeably in the past year or so, and I think that's a welcome trend.
Ambassador, our elected senators, for example, Senator Bato del Rosa said he would pursue the revival of death penalty here in the Philippines. You in the U.S., what's your take on this? Do you support the revival of death penalty?
I think that's a question for the Filipino people to decide. This is a controversial topic even in the United States. But it's a question for the Filipino people.
In the US, you have federalism. Somebody asking what are lessons we could learn from the US? Are we big enough to be like that? Are we too small? Do you have any opinions? There are speculations that one of the possible topics the politicians might tackle is the federalism suggestion. Do you have any views? Because the US is a federal state. Any views about it?
I'm aware that there is interest in federalism here. Because the U.S. has a very well-established system of federalism. I mean, I can't really say whether Philippines is too big or too small to move to a federalist system. Again, I think this is a question for the Filipino people to decide what type of political system they want. We stand to work with the Philippines, whatever they decide their future should be in terms of political system. I do think because we have such a long history with federalism, that it would be worthwhile for Filipino policymakers and intellectuals thinking about this question to look at how we have done it in the U.S. because I think it will stand as, could be a good model for the Philippines.
Somebody texted me also, Ambassador, that some foreign investors are asking for the foreign investment rules in the Philippines. Do you agree to the views of some American chamber people I talked to that they hope to the Philippine foreign investment rules can be made similar to ASEAN, or is there such a view from your side? Or what are the views of American businessmen about how to make the Philippines a more attractive place for U.S. investors?
I think there's no question that some of the restrictions you have on foreign investment is an issue for many foreign companies. It's not just U.S. companies, but other foreign companies as well. So to the extent that you can liberalize those restrictions, I think will make it easier for foreign companies to consider the Philippines more seriously as an investment destination.
Maybe one or two more. The general said that after the forum, can you have a picture with you? Maybe one more last question. Yes. From the earliest person here. She was here before 8.
Well, I mean, that's what we have noticed from reporting by you guys, that reports of whether it's extrajudicial killings or other serious forms of human rights violations have gone down in the past year or so.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ambassador. You have to try our Pandesal. Have you tried Pandesal in the Philippines for breakfast? Yes. It's good for all day breakfast.